By day, he's a blood-spatter analyst solving crimes for Miami Metro Police. By night, he's a meticulous killer delivering his own twisted form of justice. Dexter Morgan is a man of contradictions, a character who forces us to question the thin line between good and evil. But what makes Dexter so terrifying, yet so compelling, is his struggle to balance justice with the darkness that consumes him. Can darkness ever serve the light? Before we start, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. On the surface, Dexter Morgan seems like the perfect employee and friend. He's charming, intelligent, and always willing to lend a hand. But beneath this facade lies a dark truth. Dexter is a serial killer. Not just any killer, though. He lives by a strict code. He only kills those who deserve it, criminals who have slipped through the cracks of the justice system. This duality is what makes Dexter such a fascinating character. He's a monster who knows he's a monster, but tries to channel his darkness for what he believes is a greater good. This brings us to the cornerstone of his identity, the Code of Harry. Dexter Morgan stood in his kill room, the sharpest knife in his hand gleaming under the bright light. The scent of blood hung in the air, a scent that always calmed him, that reminded him of who he was and what he did. He had always known he was different. From a young age, he had felt that dark urge, the need to kill. But through his adoptive father, Harry Morgan, he had learned to make his murders not random. There were rules, a code that guided him. Only those who deserved it. The criminals who had slipped through the cracks of the justice system became the victims of his hand. But despite the rules, despite the code, Dexter began to feel the internal struggle more and more. Justice and darkness. They were like two inevitable forces constantly fighting against each other in his soul. It all started with the death of his mother. The trauma of her brutal murder, while he sat in her blood as a child, had left an indelible mark on him. It had awakened his need to kill, and over the years, he had learned how to control that darkness. Or so he thought. He had Harry's code, which taught him that his murders were not random, but that they were meant to bring justice. But was he really bringing justice, or was he just a man justifying his own fears and desires? One day, Dexter was faced with a situation that challenged his own definition of justice. He had a new target, a man responsible for the murders of several young women, someone who treated his life like a game, using others as objects. Dexter had identified the man, investigated everything, and now he stood there, the knife in his hand, ready to carry out his own version of justice. But as he looked into the man's eyes, Dexter felt an unexpected hesitation. It wasn't doubt about the man's guilt. That was unquestionable. But the hesitation came from somewhere else. Was he truly bringing justice? Or was this just a way to feed his own inner darkness? It was a question he had asked himself many times, but never answered. The darkness he had so carefully kept in check seemed to rise to the surface again. It felt like a force he could no longer control. The Code of Harry had guided him up to now, but what if the code was no longer enough? What if he truly had no control, and everything he did was just a way to mask his own desires? In that moment, the realization came. Justice was more than just punishing criminals. It was about finding a way to cope with his own darkness. Dexter had always thought he was using his darkness for a greater good. But what if he was actually a victim of his own inner battle? The question he had always avoided, whether he was truly a hero or just a killer fooling himself, now surfaced. He put the knife down and turned away. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sort of letting go of control. The darkness would always be there, but maybe it was time to accept that justice wasn't always so black and white. It was a struggle, not only against the criminals he killed, but against his own desire for destruction. Dexter left the room, his heart heavy, but with a new realization. The struggle between justice and darkness was a part of him, something he would never fully win or lose. It would always remain a fight between what he wanted to do and what he had to do. And perhaps, he thought, that was the true nature of justice. It wasn't the end of the battle, but accepting the battle itself. Dexter's inner darkness is embodied by what he refers to as his dark passenger. This represents the primal, uncontrollable urges that drive his need to kill. However, the dark passenger is more than just a manifestation of his psychopathy. It mirrors the internal struggle we all face, the conflict between who we are and who we aspire to be. Dexter's battle isn't solely about resisting his dark passenger. It's about finding meaning within it. The key question is this darkness an intrinsic part of him, or is it something he can ultimately conquer? At its core, Dexter's internal conflict reflects the human experience. We all face impulses, some good, some bad. But it's the choices we make that define us. Dexter's actions often lead to severe consequences, not only for him, but for those around him. What do you think? Is Dexter's dark passenger merely an excuse for his actions, or a genuine psychological burden? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Dexter's actions raise an uncomfortable question. Can vigilantism ever be justified? He operates outside the law, taking justice into his own hands. On the one hand, he eliminates dangerous criminals who might otherwise go free. On the other, he bypasses the system entirely, becoming judge, jury, and executioner. This ethical dilemma is central to Dexter's story. While many viewers root for him, it's hard to ignore the hypocrisy of his actions. He claims to value justice, but his methods are undeniably criminal. What do you think? Does Dexter's end justify his means? Throughout the series, we see Dexter grapple with this very question. His meticulous planning and adherence to the code show his attempt to maintain control. But as the story progresses, cracks begin to form. While Dexter's darkness defines him, his relationships reveal his humanity. His bond with his sister Deborah is especially significant. She's his anchor to normalcy, even as she struggles with the truth about who he is. Deborah represents Dexter's conscience, a voice reminding him of what he could have been, if not for his darkness. But perhaps the most poignant relationship in Dexter's life is with his son, Harrison. In Dexter, New Blood, we see Harrison grapple with his own dark tendencies, mirroring his father's journey. This brings up the question, is darkness hereditary, or is it a product of the environment? Dexter's attempts to guide Harrison show his desire for redemption. But can he truly break the cycle? Do you think Dexter redeemed himself through his relationship with Harrison? Or did he ultimately fail as a father and a person? Share your thoughts below. Dexter Morgan's story isn't just about murder. It's a cautionary tale about the cost of living a double life. His journey forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about morality, justice, and the human condition. Love him or hate him, Dexter remains one of TV's most complex and thought-provoking characters. His story is a mirror, reflecting our own struggles with identity and morality. Dexter's story spans multiple seasons and explores his evolution as a character. In the beginning, he appears almost robotic, killing without remorse and adhering strictly to Harry's code. But as the series progresses, cracks in his emotional armor begin to show. His relationships, especially with Rita and Deborah, challenge his cold, calculated demeanor. He starts to question whether he's capable of genuine love and connection. Moments like the birth of his son, Harrison, and the tragic loss of Rita push him into uncharted emotional territory. These changes make Dexter even more compelling. He's not just a static character bound by his darkness. He's someone trying, often failing, to grow beyond it. This raises an interesting question. Can someone like Dexter ever truly change, or is his darkness too deeply ingrained? Dexter isn't the only monster in his world. Throughout the series, he faces off against other killers who challenge his morality and methods. From the ice truck killer to the Trinity killer, each adversary serves as a reflection of Dexter's own darkness. The Trinity killer, for example, is a particularly haunting figure. Played brilliantly by John Lithgow, Trinity appears to be a family man on the surface, much like Dexter. But as Dexter delves deeper into Trinity's life, he sees the horrifying consequences of living a double life unchecked. This confrontation forces Dexter to confront his own hypocrisy and fears for his future. The antagonists in Dexter aren't just villains, they're mirrors. They highlight the consequences of Dexter's choices and serve as warnings of what he could become if he lets his darkness consume him entirely. Which of Dexter's adversaries do you think had the biggest impact on him? Was it Trinity, Ice Truck, or perhaps someone else? Share your thoughts. Miami isn't just a backdrop for Dexter's story. It's a character in itself. The vibrant colors, the heat, the nightlife, it all contrasts sharply with the dark deeds Dexter commits in the shadows. This setting creates a unique tension, where the bright, bustling world outside hides the darkness lurking beneath. The city's diversity and complexity also mirror Dexter's own duality. Miami is a place of opportunity and danger, beauty and chaos. It's the perfect stage for a character like Dexter to navigate his dual life. Dexter Morgan isn't just a TV character, he's a cultural phenomenon. Since the show's debut, it's inspired countless debates, essays, and even other media exploring similar themes. Shows like Breaking Bad and Barry owe a debt to Dexter for paving the way for morally complex anti-heroes. But Dexter's legacy isn't just about his impact on storytelling. It's also about the questions he forces us to ask. How far would we go for justice? Can someone truly live with their darker impulses? And is it ever possible to escape who we are? What does Dexter mean to you? Share your thoughts below. In the end, Dexter's story leaves us with more questions than answers. Can someone truly live with their darkness, or must they always strive to overcome it? And perhaps more importantly, does justice always require light, or can it sometimes emerge from the shadows? Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and like. Feel free to leave a comment below, sharing what you thought of the video and what you'd like to see and learn more about Dexter.